What is up? Welcome back to the Be Unexpected podcast with Wyatt Spalding and Jake Burnside. We're going to continue our series of our story, and today we're going to still talk about Jake's football injury, but kind of go into more of what it was like after the injury and going from star athlete to now sitting on the bench and having recovery not really go the way he planned and what his mindset was during the whole process. So
Yeah,
Jake,
it was sitting I just remember a lot of that year. It just wasn't fun, man. Just like sitting on the bench and watching your friends do things that you can't. It sucked, to say the least.
I think we sat on the bench together at some
Hmm.
games because you sat at the end with me for like reserve basketball. But I just
Yeah.
remember, did you like you didn't have like a walker or a cane or anything, did you? With
Well,
that?
well, so I yeah, so the healing process didn't go like we wanted to. So I was on crutches longer than expected.
Hmm.
And then I went down to one crutch. And then I don't know if you remember, I did use a cane. I
Yeah,
think that was just me being 16 years old and trying to be funny and to try to use that as like a silly crutch or to use it as a way to, make people laugh or because
yeah.
I wouldn't say I was depressed, but man, it sucked. So yes, I did use crutches and I did use a cane for a little bit. I did use a wheelchair for a little while too.
Yeah,
But
you
yeah,
were in the wheelchair probably like right after the surgery.
yeah, I was in the wheelchair, and then it was so hard to get in that wheelchair though because you're sitting normal, and with surgeries you don't have much flexibility.
Hmm.
So sitting in that wheelchair, it was nice and it was kind of funny. I remember like Ryan Williams pushing me to choir and all that. That was funny, but it did kind of stink.
Yeah, I remember that. We had that class
Yeah, you were in
together.
choir, yeah.
Yeah, and I just remember like you coming in the wheelchair, and yeah, I just remember. I mean, most of my high school career seeing you, I was because I didn't see you play like freshman ball or
Yeah,
JV, so I just remember you being injured, and it's like,
yeah.
dang, Jake was, supposed to be like starting quarterback or, on one of the best guys on JV basketball in your grade. But so like, how was your mindset? Like you said, you didn't get depressed, but you had to have some pretty down days. Like, man, I was like, I'm better than a lot of these guys, but now I'm just on the sidelines and my recovery's not going the way I expected it to. So
Yeah, when you get injured, there's like the healing and recovery process. So, when you roll an ankle, it swells up and then get the swelling down, then strengthen it back. And with the broken femur, it was really hard. So you get it repaired. I had the rod put in, super weak, and then it's gradually supposed to heal, right? And as you're healing, you go to physical therapy and you do strengthening exercises. And as it was going along during the year, there was, I mean, it was maybe a little bit of progress, but you wouldn't see much progress with my strength or my walking. Because remember, I was always limping around, even though I got rid of the crutches,
yeah,
and you didn't see that progress because the femur fracture it wasn't healing right, so the bone wasn't healing, so I couldn't gain any strength there. So throughout the year, I think a lot of it was just getting frustrated and not seeing any progress at all in my strength. Couldn't really run. I couldn't walk normal. I was weaker in my body, and I know I just couldn't work out. And so along that way, it was just frustrating because I couldn't I could see everyone doing everything else and I couldn't, and I was making no progress. There was like no progress from, I broke it in October, and in December, there was no progress from December to March. And that's when we were like, there's got to be something wrong. So that's when we went and got a second opinion at the med center.
hmm,
And so, yeah, I'd say my mindset it was just frustrated because as your 16, 17-year old, you just want to be out there doing stuff. And I couldn't. So to deal with that, and then the only thing to look really forward to for me was school wise. And I hated school, but I loved being the jokester, but I couldn't really be the jokester when I couldn't really walk. So yeah, I would say just battling with missing out on things just really, really stunk.
you think the mindset you have today, because your mindset, like I'd say, like we go through life and you have a better mindset now at 20 than we did back in high school, you know. But did you ever think like you had the mindset back in high school where you could come back and prove everyone wrong and play football? Or were you just kind of like back then, like, nah, even when I recover, like, I'm just not gonna even try to come back and play football again?
Yeah, I'll be honest, in the moment, I never it seemed like so long, even though it was what, a 9 month process. I thought I was never gonna come back and play again. Like it just I was in my mind, I couldn't fathom how a bone could heal like that and come back and still be the same person physically like you were before.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of my mindset as a 16-year-old. I never thought from that point after surgery I could really come back and be myself again. And I really wasn't, honestly, even with that and the car accident, but I was just so down in the dumps that I was just so caught up on what had happened in the past. I couldn't focus on the moment or look forward to the healing that was
Mm-hmm.
to come. So that did alter my mindset in physical therapy. I'd probably I wouldn't go as hard, or I wouldn't do enough stretches or exercises because I was just not giving it all. And because in my mind, I thought I couldn't come back. And that really screwed me, man. It really
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, I think too, like if you have the mindset you do now, you probably were like, oh, I could come
Right.
back. But then
Mhm.
like in high school, it's like trying to like build confidence, you know, because you're growing
Yeah.
up. And I think people like, do you ever think like, yeah, people say like, oh, I wish I was like that. I wish I was like this in high school, but I mean, it's all part of growing up. But like,
Yeah.
was there like a moment like watching on the bench, like a game you remember, or just like a moment of practice where you were like, man, that used to be like me out there, like playing and getting the ball and being the guy to win the
Yeah,
game
I
for
think
us.
I think that was all throughout the basketball season, man. Seeing, your brother out there, seeing Mitch, seeing Hunter, seeing those guys out there doing that. And it's just like, oh man, I should be out there with them doing that. And then you just get jealous. And then you know how it goes. And then your mind goes one place, and then you get frustrated, and then you get mad at the person. And then it's a cycle downward. So there was a lot of moments, traveling on the bus. It's always cool, going to games, getting out of school early, which is great. And I
Yeah,
still did all those things, but you are going to what? To sit on the bench, right? And
right.
to cheer on as best as you could, as you know. And it's a cool feeling to be part of the team and all, but to step back and not be part of it in the moment, it kind of stunk.
Yeah, it sounds like that wasn't really part of your nature. Like for me,
Yeah.
it was. Like I've been the manager for
Yeah.
years. I was like, yeah, there's nothing. I mean, I was just used to it.
Yeah.
And for you, like being that your first year, so like I would compare that to like when I started like in middle school, like you're
Right.
used to it.
Mhm.
So I bet, especially like being like 16, that had to be a really tough year. The first year, you basically were a manager. Didn't
Mhm.
you keep? Didn't you help keep stats sometimes?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. And that's what was weird too, because, as growing up, I'd never been injured before, through elementary school or in the middle school or whatnot. You just get up and keep going, you keep running around,
Hmm.
and there's this a moment in your life and it just stops. So like you can't do anything. You're just kind of there, and it
Yeah,
just really it's a weird feeling.
yeah. Did you ever watch like? Do you ever think about like an athlete like did a pro athlete that you looked up to that came back from an injury, so you kind of use that to motivate you to come back at all?
Yeah, I think let me think. What was then? Uh, I don't remember one specific athlete, but I would always was it maybe this is around then. Remember Marcus Lattimore
Yeah.
from South Carolina? I think
Hmm.
this was around then. Remember that injury he had with his knee?
Oh
He
yeah,
just blew it out.
yeah,
And I don't think he went to have on a career. And maybe it wasn't so much his story that got me motivated, but just sympathizing with him and seeing that. I was like, dang, man, it happens to all of us as part of the game, right? And so I just remember, I think our injuries were around that same time because it was just,
yeah.
gruesome to watch.
And the one I was thinking about was like Adrian Peterson
Right. Yeah.
from that
Yeah.
ACL, but it's like we all can't be Adrian Peterson.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
crazy. And like, did he get injured? 2011, right? So,
Hmm.
and then it was 2012 when your freshman year.
Yeah,
Uh,
so that's
he
freshman
had
year.
that
Yep.
incredible season. So it's
Yeah.
like you wish you could be him, but like, I mean, it's possible.
Uh-huh.
But we're all not as athletic as Adrian Peterson. I
Right.
don't think like if high schoolers would have the mindset of like maybe a pro athlete, which is hard to
Yeah.
say, like and hard to do. But
Yeah. It
then you
is.
can come back. But like you said, like in high school, like you're kind of like negative, and we're all like that in high school, and like you don't know if you can come back. But it takes like a strong mindset to like just come back from an injury like you had, especially like if you're supposed to be back because you're supposed to be back middle of basketball season, right?
Right. Yeah. I think they said I'd be able to probably practice towards the end of the year. Probably not play, but maybe. And
Mm-hmm.
so, okay, you got that in your mind. Okay. Okay. If I keep working hard, I've worked my butt off, I can get back, early February and start practicing again. And so that was in my mind, man. That is what I'm thinking. And
Yeah.
it comes January and I'm still in crutches and I can't run. It's like, oh, geez. And I'm just pissed.
Yeah. And that's the thing
Yeah.
is like if we had a mindset we do now back in high school, I
Right.
bet you would have like came back and played football, but then like you
Yeah.
said, like you didn't really think you would, and it probably just part of like growing up and being kids. But
Isn't
I
it
think
crazy to look back and reflect like right now? So being what 27, 26, and just remembering the things you did in high school as a
yeah,
6, 17, 18-year-old kid and your mindset. It's like, why couldn't I think like that and do that? But it's all just part of maturing, right?
yeah. Well, then it's crazy. Like there's probably are some athletes that do come back and do it, but
Right.
it's like you got to have like a really strong mindset and maybe athletic ability is part of it. I don't know,
Hmm.
but I mean it's hard, you know, said than done. Like you gotta really put in the work, which you did.
Hmm.
But I bet I mean it wasn't like it was easy for you to stay positive every day. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And
And it wasn't. Yeah.
yeah, and I bet like would you say like if it would have healed right, it would have been easier for you to come back because maybe you would have played, you would have done track, right?
Yeah.
Been ready
If
for
it
the
would have
track season.
healed right, that I think if it was healing the right way, you would have seen obviously the progression. And, anytime you see progress, what you're proud of yourself or you're more joyful. But I didn't see that. So I think if I would have, if it would have went as I planned, I think I would have came back with that basketball, track, and then leading to football. But things kind of didn't go that way with the healing process.
Yeah, like that one little like inch of seeing recovery, like even just saying, let's say you practiced during the basketball season but never played, come back and do your track season. I bet that could have really like gave you motivation to like, oh, I could play football again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, like,
But
oh, I can compete with these guys still,
yeah,
and then lead into football and to basketball. So yeah, that's a good point.
yeah. So, but injuries, man, like it's all about like mindset, I feel like too.
Hmm.
Like even when you have the setback, it just like you have to like really think of the bigger picture. Like how are you
Yeah.
gonna come back? It's like I guess you were at that time you were a sophomore. I know
Hmm.
like, you weren't expecting the stuff to happen to you later on in your high school career, but as a sophomore at that time, were you thinking like, oh, I'm only a sophomore? I got my junior and senior year, which is the years I'm really gonna play. So when you first got injured, did you kind of think like, oh, well, I'd rather get injured in the beginning of my high school career than the end?
Yeah, that's a good point. I thought so. I mean, part of the it was just like you're gonna come back, but then also part of it you're not. So I kind of was all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But I was first off, you're right. I was glad. Okay, I'm only freshman, sophomore. I'm gonna be able to come play back for Fremont and play football and basketball. It's all gonna be well. But then part of me, like I said before, it was like seeing others out there playing and doing it, same age, friends, and then just getting frustrated that you're not the one out there. So yes, I was happy that it happened earlier,
Mm-hmm.
but I was still, I'll be honest, still jealous of those guys out there doing that.
Right. And were there who in your recovery, especially when March came and you weren't healing properly, who like really was there for you in your time of recovering and stuff?
Yeah, I would say probably just my friend group was there, all those guys. And then it was really important when I like a physical therapy. and going to Madonna, Proactive in Lincoln, and getting some help from them. But I would say definitely my friend group was there, like Hunter, Dredge, Hope, TJ, and all those guys were there. But it was still, like I said, it was still stunk, but they were there. And I'm thankful my mom and I, we went and got a second opinion at the med center in Omaha, because who knows if we didn't do that. But yeah, I would say probably the team, they were
Yeah.
still there. Still welcome you to be a part of it, but it's still not the same.
Yeah, because you easily could have said like, "Oh, I'm not gonna be on the team because I'm not playing.
Right.
What's the point?"
Yeah.
So, but I
Yeah.
think like being on a team, whether you play or not, is the big part of just like you said, being
Hmm.
a part of it. Like there's
Yeah.
something to do every day after school, and
Yeah.
you're part of a group.
Yeah.
And I guess you
Yeah.
kind
Not
of feel
not
like
checking out. Yeah.
you went through like what the managers go through. Like you're on the team, so you can still talk about the games.
Uh-huh.
Now,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but like when I was on the bench, it was like they talk about certain players. And if you're not playing, it's like you're not really part of that conversation.
Yeah.
Letting go against them, but at least like you can talk about parts of the game that you remember watching and stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
but yeah, so in your life, like going through injuries and stuff, what would you tell someone in high school that's going through an injury now and maybe has a big setback like you did where it wasn't healing properly or something else goes wrong? What would you tell that high schooler?
Yeah. Isn't it? I think you could agree too. When you get injured, and then what do you want to do when you get injured? You want to be healed and you want to be playing next week or next
Yeah.
month or next year. But you can't do that unless you're just going to physical therapy. You're going to do your stuff. You're going to do your training at each day. You just kind of, I didn't realize this until the end of my, after the accident and going through stuff there. Each day it was better if I showed up or I didn't. So it kind of got to the point was, okay, I can either show up and or I can pout, I can complain that this happened to me, these circumstances happened, or accept the fact that it happened. Okay, how am I gonna use this for a bigger purpose? So each day, showing up to physical therapy, you're doing your work, yeah, and in your mind too. So I think it was a daily battle. And looking back, I wish I would have known that more, but glad I kind of realized that more now. It's yes, I would love to play what it's January. Okay. In June. Okay. I can't get to that goal unless, okay, each day through March, through April, I do the grind every day. I'm busting my butt every single day to get to that point. And then once I get there, just keep growing more and keep the mindset. It's a day by day work, man.
Yeah, day by day, man. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Jake, thanks for sharing your story, more on your recovery with your femur injury. And we'll get more into Jake's story on the Be Unexpected podcast. Check us out on Be Unexpected 100 Instagram page, our Facebook page, Be Unexpected, and our YouTube channel, Be Unexpected. And we'll see you later for more episodes of our story on Be Unexpected. See ya.
Later.